Hello, good afternoon everybody. I am Faizal. Here I will present the material about histology of respiratory medicine that previously was presented by Raditya Sasongkojati and now will be presented by me. And let's get started. In the introduction, we must know the anatomy of respiratory system. There are upper and lower respiratory anatomy. As you can see, here's the nasal cavity, nasopharynx, oropharynx, epiglottis, and laryngopharynx. And other part of here is the upper respiratory system, and below the vocal cord is the lower respiratory system. And in more detail, the tractus respiratorius, the lower part of respiratory, there are two portions: the conducting portion and respiratory portion. The conduction system or portion has three functions: to humidify, warm, and filter the air, and the respiratory portion to exchange the gas, oxygen and carbon dioxide, because alveoli can be found in the respiratory portion. And the type of respiratory epithelium is the columnar pseudocomplex here, and the upper surface or the apex pool. Here's the apex pool, lateral pools, and the basal pool. In the apical surface, we can find cilia, and in the lateral pool or surface, in every between of pseudocomplex columnar epithelial, we can find a type of cell that produce a mucus called as goblet. And you must know that the lower respiratory tract, the lower epithelial level, and the more we cannot found the cilia. And the cavitas nasalis is the part of upper respiratory system. The vestibulum nasi here, the fossa nasalis. As you can see here, we can find a filament of first cranial nerve, olfactory nerve, but we will not discuss about nervous system. And sinus paranasalis. And the pharynx has three functional parts: nasopharynx, oropharynx, and laryngopharynx. Here you can see the colored regio and laryngopharynx, also known as a hypopharynx. And here you can see a epiglottis. And below of nasopharynx we can find larynx. The type of epithelium is respiratory epithelial, except the lingualis facies of epiglottis and plica vocalis. The type of their epithelium is squamous complex, non-conificated. And the wall of larynx is strengthened by hyaline and elastic cartilage. And the next is the epiglottis. Has two facies, lingualis facies and laryngalis facies. And the type of every facies is different. Squamous complex non-conificated is found in facies lingualis, and the laryngalis has different type of epithelial. The distal and proximal aspect of it is different type of epithelial, as you can see, and it's strengthened by the elastic cartilage. Here's the macroscopic view of the epiglottis. Here's the epiglottis too, and you can see it's the lingualis facies and the laryngalis facies. And let's get on the next step is the trachea. The type of the epithelial in the trachea is respiratory epithelial. Below the epithelial is lamina propria, elastic fibers, and submucous of trachea. We can find seromucous gland. And in the ventral or anterior aspect of trachea, we can find hyaline cartilage with G-shapes. Here, the ventral aspect, and in the dorsal aspect, we cannot find the hyaline, but it is consists of a musculus called as trachealis musculus, and the adventitia of the trachea consists of connective tissue. Here's the ventral aspect, the hyaline cartilage with G-shaped cartilage, and the dorsal part is the musculus trachealis. The more lower we will discuss is the bronchial tree, and here we can find a primarius as principalis bronchus and secondary bronchus, also known as lobaris, 2 in the left hemithorax but 3 in the right hemithorax. But in the figure here is only 2 lobaris bronchus, and then segmentally bronchus and bronchiolus terminalis. As we know before, that the bronchiolus terminalis is the end of conduction portion of human respiratory system, and the bronchiolus respiratory is the first tube or first passage of respiratory portion. And here the Raditya Sasongkojati present a table here. A bronchus, bronchiolus, and bronchiolus terminal has different feature in the respiratory epithelium, the goblet, the cilia, the trachealis musculus, and the cartilage hyaline and seromucous gland. Of this feature in the histology view, the cartilage hyaline is more prominent feature that we can distinguish the every part of them. Here the bronchus. We still can find the cartilage hyaline here, but in the shape is island-like, not T-shape like in the trachea. And in the bronchiolus and the terminal bronchiolus, the cartilage hyaline is absent. Here there are no cartilage, and the terminalis also there are no cartilage. So the hyaline cartilage is the prominent feature of them that we can distinguish bronchus, bronchiolus, and terminal bronchiolus. And in the terminal bronchiolus, there are no goblet cell, but it changes with Clara cell. And the first part of respiratory portion is respiratory bronchiolus. We call it as respiratory portion because alveoli is found here. Alveoli are found here, and the type of epithelial here is simplex cuboid with cilia. Here's a grill of pulmo, a culinary of Indonesia, not important. And in the pulmo we can found three compartments. First is alveolaris tube, ductus alveolaris, and second is atria. There are four compartments, and the third is succus alveolaris, and the final, the smaller part of respiratory organ is alveoli. Here's the terminal bronchioles, respiratory bronchiolus, and ductus alveolaris, atria, and succus alveolaris. And let's see in more detail of every part of them. First is alveolaris ductus. Is the branch of respiratory bronchioles. The type of epithelium is simplex squamous, and there is a knob, and the knob is itself have different type of epithelial. The knob is cuboid simplex that has no cilia, and the atria is the distal part of alveolaris tube, and succus alveolaris is a group of alveoli in simple, and alveoli or alveolus in the single form is consists of two type of alveoli cell called pneumocyte. The type 1 and type 2 pneumocyte is the respiratory system functional unit, and there is a porous cone that has function to distribute a gas between the alveoli. It has a function to revitalization if there is a obstruction in the alveoli. And in the alveoli there is septum interalveolaris, has many blood vessel, artery, vena pulmonalis, and the type D collagen. Now let's discuss in more detail if we see the histology of the pulmo. Here's the T is terminal bronchioles. How you can distinguish with the other? Here you can find the epithelial, and there are no alveoli because alveoli is how do I say, no alveoli in this tract because there is an epithelial in this terminal bronchioles. As you know, is cuboid simplex with cilia. And more distal, here is respiratory bronchiole. The epithelial is still cuboid with cilia, but the alveoli have make contact with respiratory bronchiole. Here the A is alveoli in the respiratory bronchiole. In the terminal bronchiole we cannot find alveoli. And ductus alveolaris, succus alveolaris is the group of alveoli in simple. And this cell that we can find in the pulmo or alveoli, the pneumocyte 1, 2, 3, and macrophage alveolar cell that has function as a macrophage for defense system. Here's the schematic pulmo cells. Here's the septal, the type 2 pneumocyte is called a septal cell, and here the first pneumocyte, type 1 cell pneumocyte. And here you can see the schematic picture of the alveoli. Here's the erythrocyte and pulmonary capillary and the macrophage or dot cell in the alveoli. Here the cone fourth porous cone tapped to pneumocyte with dome-like shapes and the type 1 alveolar cell. Here's the schematic. How about the histology view under microscope? The P1 is the first pneumocyte here. It constructs the how do I say? I'm sorry. Interalveolar septum interalveolaris. The first pneumocyte and type 2 pneumocyte here with dome-like shape that come in have prominence on the lumen of the alveoli. Here's the pulmo, the alveoli, the saccus alveolaris, and the reference that Raditya Sasongkojati used. Here's the epiglottis, trachea, and the pulmo. The two, let's see. Two is respiratory bronchioles. We can find cuboid epithelial with cilia, and alveoli have contacts with the tube of bronchiolus respiratorius, and here the group of alveoli is saccus alveolus. Thank you.